Hello, my name is Zuzana Fialová and I work in PDCS Slovakia, it's Partners for Democratic Change Slovakia, and I work as a trainer and consultant.
My name is and I study sociology, and at the moment I'm on an internship here at PDCS, and today I will be asking questions.
Yes, and we will try to tell you something about the topic extremism in our everyday life. Why we are telling this? Because our organization is dealing with conflicts for more than 20 years already, and we are doing not only training in conflict resolution, negotiations and various aspects of conflict, but also we are currently doing an international project in Central Europe which is aimed at research and also looking for positive elements and positive experience and best practices of grassroots initiatives which are doing conflict resolution, but also which are just mitigating conflicts or just releasing tensions between people in value-based social conflicts. So that's why we will be focusing in examples, and in what we are going to say we'll focus on Central Europe and on our country, of course.
So thank you for the introduction. I will ask the first question. What causes certain people or groups to radicalize?
Okay, maybe we can say something about what we mean by radicalization or extremism. Maybe we can define it as an inclination of people to certain radical, undemocratic, unusual in democratic society attitudes or even actions which are discriminatory, which do not follow the basic democratic standards like human rights, like tolerance towards minorities, and even often they are attacking the very essence of democracy. That means that they are trying to question democratic institutions and principles, and they try to promote some other methods of government. So back to the question, why or what are the causes? I would put it in three terms. That people are lost, anxious and bored. Why and what does it mean that people are lost? On one hand, we know very well that the common situation, people have too much information. I remember myself the time when I was a student at the university where we did not have books, we did not have good resources to learn. After the fall of communism, there were no journals, no books, nothing. Today people have everything. They have access to all alternatives, all variants of information, but also of interpretation of the same situation. You have news about Syria, and at the same time you have comments or you have alternative news which are saying that actually the bombing in Syria did not happen at all. And so the problem is that to orient oneself in the information. And of course social media are also helping in this problem, because people are watching or looking for what their friends are sharing or promoting, and they are not selecting the information according to its validity, but according to, aha, my friend shared this, so this should be true. And another element of being lost is also lack of values in everyday life, I would put it like this. we can say that because we are already very far away from traditional societies, even in villages, people don't see the church as an absolute authority to say what is good or what is wrong. Every value or every authority can be questioned, and it is very difficult for many people to orient themselves in so many possibilities, in so many variants of what is good or what is wrong. And of course they are intuitively searching for some truth, for something what would be like right. What about anxious? That means, of course, the fear of unknown, and especially in Central Europe, where our societies are traditionally quite close, with low social mobility. So people are still used to be surrounded by the same citizens, by the same color, the same nationality, the same background, and are still not very used to diversity, which is a problem. And also the fact is that at least in Slovakia for sure, but many other countries as well, the mainstream politicians are using this refugee problem or minority problem to somehow artificially create the issue, create the enemy, and then present themselves as those cool guys who are helping people save our country, save our culture, protect us from the enemy. And unfortunately, because the mainstream discussion is moving towards more and more extreme sayings and views, the really extreme views are becoming more and more like normal, right? That when the Prime Minister can say that now we have to finish with political correctness, and that we have to say the truth, that many Roma people are misusing the social security system, then of course the radical guys, they can say, okay, let's go and kill them all. So it's not so much extreme anymore. And this is a big problem, especially in Slovakia. And Juraj, you can say in your own city you have the governor who is the member of the Radical Party, which is in the parliament.
Yeah, it was totally unexpected a few years ago, but then he got the position, now he's even in the parliament,
and he can say very radical views officially because he is the governor of the region. So it's very, very strange. And the third thing was that people are bored. What does it mean? Is that there is very high alienation from politics, not only among youth, but also among common people in general. Would they be specialist managers or very simple, low educated people? Many people have the impression that politicians fail to represent them, so that their problems are not solved by the politics. And another element of being bored is that especially young men, they are kind of they have lack of adventure. They need something to train and to belong to, and it's not. And these extremist groups, they are very attractive from this point of view. So in Slovakia we have migration crisis without refugees. We'll show you the Eurostat data, where Slovakia has several persons as asylum seekers, but if you ask people in Slovakia, and there were opinion polls made on this issue, and people are treating the refugee crisis as one of big problems of our country. And this is the result of the political campaign of mainstream political parties, left, right, various directions. But the common thing was that they used the refugee as a scapegoat and to show like this is the enemy and we are going to protect you.
Okay, so the second question, why are radical groups so popular and attractive?
I started already to say something on this point. First thing is that they organize themselves around membership. If you look at the civil society, traditional civil society organizations now, we can see that they move to kind of expert role. They are very often cooperating with the government. They do some expert activities, but they are not very much with the people. They don't have membership anymore. They are not based on membership. They are very often receiving funds from grants or tenders made of government or foreign donors, but they don't seek, they don't look for constituencies. They don't need it even, because their work is based on their expertise, and they don't need to have like 1 million followers or people who are ready to do something. They need 3-4 experts and it's enough. But these guys, what they're doing, they organizing people, especially men, in very grassroots issues, like helping people after flood, like helping in some community problems, doing very low-cost public events like cooking some goulash and talking about their extremist views, which look so innocent and nice and attractive. And because they provide membership and the feeling of belongingness, the feeling of identity, common identity, of course they are attractive. All political parties in Slovakia are speaking that yes, to deal with radicalization we need to go to regions. But the only political party which is doing it in reality is this radical party Kotleba. They are working with the people. All this voluntary work, and even there are some paramilitary groups which are kind of forbidden, but they use some holes in the laws. And they give this to young men, this training, sport, and again some simple ideas. They can say, yes, this is true, this is simple, this is right, this is the direction. So the question can be maybe for your discussion during your course, why is it so? Why people still need simple answers and simple definition of the reality? Yes, and the other problem is that we are, thanks to modern way of life and to also internet and social media, we are creating like parallel worlds or universes, that I am living only with my friends. I have them on Facebook. We interact in person, and even I don't read media or internet resources which I don't like. So I am living in my own bubble, and I don't know about these other parallel universes of other people who are reading different news, different truths, They have different friends and very different interests, let's say, and worldviews. And these isolated bubbles are very dangerous because we don't communicate. We stop communicating. We have thousands possibilities, like technical possibilities to communicate, but we don't. We just closing ourselves and kind of saying the same, or by other words the same, to our own views, that yes, I'm right.
Okay, and the third and last question, what strategies can be adopted to go against the trend of radicalization?
This is very difficult, of course, question, but what came to my mind are like three maybe directions or three big issues to be solved. The first problem is education, especially in Central Europe. We can say that the education system is still very old-fashioned for providing facts, and I'm sometimes saying that our education system is designed to produce robots, not people, because it's completely lacking values, it's completely lacking the skills, the mental skills of students, of children, pupils, to think independently, to ask questions, to question the truth or the facts, and to search for information and select and somehow orient themselves in the information. This we don't teach to students. And this is from the very low to the very high level of the education system. What we also need within the education or awareness raising is the public discussion on our own history, because it was not enough. We did not went through it the same like Germans did, for example, and still there are many myths about our history in 20th century, and I think this is in every Central European country, because we are positioning ourselves as victims of history and not as its creators. So that means that we still, many people in Slovakia, they still think that the fascist Slovak state during the war was a wonderful state and very good and very progressive. And Mr. Jozef Tiso, who was the president responsible, among other things, also for Holocaust, for transporting of 60,000 Jewish people and many other nationalities and social groups to concentration camps. So this guy is still considered to be like a legitimate, great personage of history by many people, even by many teachers at the schools. So this is the example that we still did not have enough fair discussion about our own past, about our own responsibility for our own history. And of course this is linked to values at schools, that we have to get values back to schools and to promote values which are not very popular in these times, like humility, solidarity and modesty, for example. These are very unfashionable values, but I think they would help very much. And many intellectuals are showing that the solidarity is one of the basic European values, but we are neglecting it fully. And the refugee crisis is a good example of that. The next direction is dialogue. To break these bubbles, to try to do projects or activities to talk to each other. Not to label people who are not radicals, but maybe they sympathize with some of these simple solutions these radical extremist groups are offering. Try to discuss, try to explain, try to understand and listen, which is, of course, when I'm saying it like this, it sounds very easy, but of course it's very, very difficult to do it in practice. And promote interaction of various worlds, like the city and the village, like the center and the periphery, like intellectuals and maybe practitioners or less educated people, to try to understand the other point of view, which is very difficult, of course. And the last thing I would say, individual experience is quite important, though it's not solving everything, because a person who is really, really radical, he's already finished in his worldview. But the person who is thinking and who is anxious and afraid of everything and lost in all the information politicians are saying, if these kind of people, they have a real contact, for example, with refugees during some integration programs, I don't know one example that they would remain in these extremist positions. Because it's very different to say on Facebook, let's kill all refugees, and to say it on like contact we have face to face is very different. And when these stories are told and are told by authentic people, it helps. It helps at schools, it helps in various groups of people when they have direct contact with the others, whoever it would be. So this would be, I don't know, maybe some thoughts for you to think about and to discuss, and we wish you fruitful and interesting discussion, and good luck.